So I love the Owl House, just love it, but I do have issues with some of its characters, like Ida, or King, or Amity, or Willow, or Gus, or Willow, especially Willow. Lilith is cool, I guess, but perhaps the character I take issue with more than anyone else is Noceda. It's just a matter of time before this girl ends up behind bars, and frankly both human and witch societies will be better for it. Now, a lot of you are probably writing comments about how wrong I am, but I don't think you realize just how crazy this girl's many crimes are. Like, Ida's a criminal, don't get me wrong, but she lives as an outcast picking garbage from the ocean as a result. She knows the consequences of her actions and she deals with them, but this little communist dictator just keeps getting away with everything. So, since Adventures in the Element airs today, an episode in which Luce once again breaks all of the rules and suffers literally no consequences, I thought it would be a great time to count down the many crimes of Luce Noceda. This all actually starts way back in episode 1, where we see that she has spent her entire life terrorizing her classmates, and is only receiving the vague threat of summer camp as a result. This evil idiot ends up letting snakes loose on her school, and I mean, we don't see anyone die on screen, but you honestly think anyone came out of this alive? I mean, right here, we see the snake just go for the principal's neck, and he only lets out one scream. Does he get up? No. Does he keep screaming? No. Sounds pretty dead to me. And this was after she already unleashed a horde of spiders in her art class. So at this point we think, hey, at least Luce is being sent off to that summer camp, as light a punishment as it may be, but does she end up going? No. She takes 2 freaking steps and trips into a magical world where she gets to have her greatest fantasies come true. At this point, she's basically being rewarded for murder, and boy does that go to her head. The plot of the episode is supposed to be her just getting back some stupid crown for King, but this disaster in yoga pants can't help but not only cause a prison break, but a prison riot on her way out. I mean, sure, these people claim to be innocent, but so does every other prisoner in the world. I mean, this guy eats his own eyes. You think he hasn't tried eating other people's eyes too? And look at this little monstrosity. You really think the world is safer with her walking around? But does Luce care? No. Alright, so in episode 2, Luce is excited to start her mentorship with Ida, but what is the first thing she does? Well, the first thing she does is her job, but you know what the second thing she does is? Explicitly disobey Ida and go on a clearly fake quest. Her punishment? A beautiful sunset and a pep talk. I mean, this thing nearly killed her and Ida, but sure, beautiful sunset, that'll teach her a lesson. Now, you may argue that she is following her heart or whatever in this case, that she needed to learn this lesson for herself, but in episode 3, she decides to sneak herself into a magic school by covering herself in some purple sludge. Like, if you have to put on a disguise, you know for a fact that this is not okay and you should not be doing this, and the carnage that ensues should have really driven that point home. Now, I'm not saying that they should have actually dissected her in front of everyone and let the series just end right there, but it sure would have saved a lot of people's stress in the episodes to come. Now, in episode 4, Ida is clearly sleepy, but Luce just needs to learn magic at that exact moment, so of course she pushes Ida to the limit and causes her to pass out and turn into a monster. Now, in Luce's defense, she was just being eager and she didn't know Ida would turn into whatever the heck this thing is supposed to be, but when it comes time to learn magic, she not only disregards what Ida said entirely, something Luce more or less knows to be true after meeting other witches, but she also has zero problem stealing some of Ida's potion. Don't try and argue that it was King's fault because he stole the potion. He told Luce that Ida drinks it daily and she knew that it would be stealing to drink some of it herself. This is the perfect example of how she not only has no respect for people's property, being a straight up thief, but she also is so reckless that even though she has no reason to think the potion will make her magical, she's gonna drink it anyways and see what happens. In the end, what is her punishment for all of this? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's never addressed at all because Luce learned some new spell or whatever. I guess you could argue she redeemed herself by reining Ida in and turning her back. I mean, it's not Luce's fault that Ida forgot to drink her potion at the right time, but someone seriously needs to smack this smug grin off of her face. What really bugs me is that in episode 5, Luz has the audacity to be upset with Ida over cheating in her witch's tool. Like, she was dumb enough to sign away her right to even learn magic to battle someone who had been studying magic her whole life, and then she acts like Ida's immoral just 1 week after she stole the potion for her own benefit? Yeah, I don't buy it. That's basically cheating. Her plan was to drink a potion to get more magic. So, in episode 6, the kids are doing some really crazy spell to possess some toys and make them move around, which is cool and all, but Ida specifically forbade it at the very beginning of the episode. At some point, the kids accidentally take control of the entire house instead of one of Gus's action figures, and what does she do? She decides to take it all over the boiling aisles to pull some pranks. At this point, Luz at least has a tangible punishment, but it's only cleaning up the mess in the house that she made. Like, if I was Ida, I'd be sending her back to conforming camp pronto. Episode 7 has Luz not doing anything explicitly evil, but she did break into the library after hours. You know, it's not a very heinous crime, but the fact that we had to wait 7 whole episodes for Luz to only break one law instead of several of them makes me think that this isn't a story about a well-meaning kid learning life lessons the hard way. I'm actually starting to think that she's just some muggle version of Voldemort, and what we're seeing here is her slow descent deeper into the darker side before she creates an army of Death Eaters to take control of the boiling aisles and rule it with an iron fist. I mean, the biggest development in this episode is that Luz finally convinces Amity, perhaps the most evil person she knows, that they could be friends. It sounds like her plan all along was just to get Amity to join her evil kids club. In episode 8, Luz body swaps with Ida and ends up blowing up an entire police station. She claims it was an accident. I don't believe her. Fight me. In episode 9, Luz sneaks back into Hexside, and she's at least unaware that she's not allowed there this time, because it's Gus who decided to be evil this week, but then when they get an appropriate punishment like detention, they decide that they're just going to break out of there and destroy the school in the process. What's worse is they purposely decide to save the most bratty and evil conniving character on the show so far, this little bully, which further supports my theory that Luz is Voldemort and she actually is just building an army of mischief makers to help her take over the islands. In episode 10, Luz steals Ida's staff without permission. Many of you will argue that King lied to her and said it was fine, but after 10 episodes and her being tricked by King already, I'm going to believe that she knew King was lying and decided to take the staff anyways. Episode 11 doesn't have her breaking any laws at all. I guess she tore up a contract, that's not cool, but I'll let it pass. Her heart did seem to be in the right place this time. But now we're finally at the American release of Adventures in the Elements, and she just had to go ruin it, didn't she? Amity and her are finally friends, getting along and being all chummy and such, and what does Luz do? She steals her training wand, just straight up theft, once again, this time to shoot fireballs into the distance at random. Who knows how many people died from that, by the way. What's worse is she probably could have just asked. Like, Amity is her friend now, Ida wasn't there watching her anyway, so why did she have to steal it? What was stopping her from just asking Amity if she could try it and just explaining that she thought doing magic the way witches do might help her better understand how to expand her own magical knowledge? But that wouldn't be enough for her. You see, it wasn't about learning magic at all. No, that could never be enough for Luz. It's not enough that she could succeed, but everyone around her has to suffer on top of it. Just look at this stupid, smug smile. The way she's rubbing her hands together. Even at the age of 7, she already knew that the only thing she craved, nay, the only thing she needed in order to exist, was to cause the never-ending suffering of every single person who ever comes into contact with her. She will stop at nothing. That sweater is probably made from real dolphins. That's just how evil she is. And you know, it wouldn't be so bad if she just, learned from her mistakes. Like, one episode about stealing doesn't ruin a character, especially in a kid's show, but when she doesn't get any consequences for it, then what are we teaching kids? Now, you're probably typing away in the comments about how she was punished enough by real-world consequences of her theft, that stealing the potion led to her being chased by a monster, for instance, but if that really was a good punishment, then she wouldn't steal again, and again, and again. She isn't learning that it's wrong to steal, just that it's okay as long as she can do something else to impress you afterwards. I, for one, will not stand for this. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you know what you have to do today. You must find Loose Noceda guilty on all counts. I rest my case.